Hello, good evening and welcome. It's Scott Patterson here for your Friday night, welcoming you along to another Gersnet Podcast. As always, you're very welcome. This is the Independent Rangers Football Club podcast by fans, for fans. And as always, we thank you for joining us on our Friday night. Before we get into things, we should say hello to our partners across at Forest Precision Engineering, Zenith Coins and footballprizes.co.uk, who we'll do a little bit about as the pod goes on. First things first, very pleased to welcome Gary Valentine to the pod. Hi Gary, how are you?
I'm not bad. How are you, mate?
Yes, not bad, mate. Busy couple of weeks for you recently, hasn't it been?
Yeah, wee man was turned one. So
wow.
I was taking up a couple of weeks there, organising parties and things like that, buying gifts, building gifts.
Yep.
It's been great fun.
The prep for that is chock-a-block. I remember I've done it twice, and it can be quite excitable for you and Mrs. Valentine as well.
Excitable. That's the word I'll use.
So listen, before we get into prepping up for the game for tomorrow, huge game at Ibrox, of course, as everyone is. But I think on the back of maybe the three results we've just recently had, it becomes that little bit more important. Huge week as well, of course, with Napoli coming for our first Champions League tie at Ibrox in 10, 12 years even. Before we get into that, it's obviously been a huge week for very sad reasons in the build-up to the game. And there's always moments where you're just really proud of your football club. And I felt Wednesday night was a night where you kind of looked around and you saw everyone singing God Save the King. Prior to that, with the wonderful display in the Broomlow, and it was nice. If nice is the right word, Gary, I thought it was a really fitting tribute on Wednesday night, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was lovely. I totally get a lot of people aren't into the royal family and whatever, and Rangers stereotypically are, but I was really, really proud of them. It was a really touching, gave you goosebumps watching the silence in the night of God Save the King, even though Ali McCoy's forgot the words and said, "Long Hermie reign over us," or whatever it was. It was very good.
I mean, it was funny, but obviously being at the game now, I came back and you're kind of, listen, you're low when you come back because you're very aware you've just been beaten at Ibrox, and no one likes to be beaten at Ibrox. When you're coming back and you're kind of scrolling through Twitter as you do, and you hear McCoy singing along loud as anyone. I mean, I don't know how close the sort of camera was in proximity where he was, but you could hear him loud and proud. He was definitely going for it, wasn't he?
To begin with, I thought it was a fan, and it wasn't until later on they mentioned it, and I was just like, oh my God.
So listen, before we get into it, the game as itself, I want to just do a little bit about the performance. I felt that for 60 minutes of the game, and I think everyone is largely in the same boat. I think we matched them pound for pound. To be honest, we really did. I thought we played really well for an hour. Sending off completely changes the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. That's after the two games previously, which were really, really disappointing. And I've said to friends in that you're happy getting beat, but when you get beat in that manner, when basically the other team wants to win more than you, I just think there's any excuses. But the game midweek, I felt it was the total opposite. We looked like we wanted to win that. The boys ran their socks off, and 3-0 maybe looks like a bit of hiding, but I don't think it tells the full story of the game. So we more than matched them, and considering what they've done to Liverpool the week before, I think it was a really, really good performance. And I hope that can maybe be a bit of a turning the corner for us, should I say, for the rest of the season.
You know, I think you make a really good point. I fully agree with you when you say that if you're going to be beaten by a better team, you'll be beaten by a better team. If guys are technically better than you, they are going to beat you. What I think as a Rangers player is completely non-negotiable is organisation and effort. And for every time that you sort of see the guys cross the white line, you expect that as a bare minimum. And I think fairly, particularly in the trip to Celtic Park, they were criticised for appearing to not have much of either of those that afternoon.
I was going to say, sorry, Scott. The thing that annoyed me more about the Celtic performance is that it was the exact same performance for February. Like everybody I spoke to, kind of friends and whatever, we knew how Celtic were going to start that game in your face, 100 mile an hour. It had happened before, and it was as if the players weren't aware of that.
Absolutely.
And then after the game, Gio to come out and his post-match comments and say, that will never happen again. And then 5 days later, it happened again.
Yeah.
And that's because I was fearing the worst for the Napoli game, and I was pleasantly surprised. I I felt like we were very unlucky for the penalty. It was a penalty, I'm not denying that, but I felt it was very unlucky. So if the guy touched the ball any other way, Sands would have got to the ball.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I said, it was harsh. And then said that the goal that eventually they got was a penalty as well, which is the rules, but you get a shot for point blank range. There's not much you can do about that.
No.
But there was a lot of positives to take out. I think 3-0 flattered them towards the end, but the one kind of defence we'll have for the team for Wednesday is we were 1-0 down, and a lot of teams would have maybe said we're down to 10 men, we'll defend and we'll see the game out. We were still throwing our attackers. We were still trying to get the equaliser or even try and get 2-1. Can remember lost a couple of goals in the break. And see, even Kamara's, that was their fault again. It wasn't. We were never carved open. I've said this a million times, weren't we? We're never carved open. It's always a mistake for us. Yeah, and then again, it was Kamara's one was certainly a mistake.
Yeah. No, listen, you're absolutely right. Before we get into that, a couple of things that we should say, and a couple of things I want to focus on. Great to see Alfredo Morelos back. Huge for, I think, the ensuing weeks and the ensuing Champions League games that are coming up just around the corner. I wonder if he has more game time in his leg, or that chance that comes to him really early on in the game comes maybe 10, 15 minutes later, if he scores that. Yeah,
and Alfredo Morelos last season probably would have put that away. It was, listen, he's been out for quite a while. I'm not going to blame him for that, but he certainly, I'd say, he answered a lot of maybe doubters, me being one of them, thinking is his attitude right, and kind of the way he was at the Hibernian game. I thought he looked out of shape, felt his attitude was stinking, but he certainly he seemed to prove that his attitude was right again. So he looked a lot leaner as well. So I'm hoping that's a good sign as well for the rest of the season, because as well as Kolak's done, and on form, Morelos is the best striker we've got, and we need to have him firing all cylinders.
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree with you. Listen, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where we'll see Morelos and Čolak at the same time playing, because I don't think it sort of ties in with the formula that Gio thinks is going to work. It's always going to be one or t'other. I think you will see for the bigger games, I do think Morelos will be the go-to guy, and you can understand that based on what we know and what we've seen previously. I do feel Čolak was maybe a bit unlucky to miss out, because I think he's been in really good form and he has started his Rangers career really, really well. I want to do a little bit about our goalkeeping situation, which I know has been done to death left, right and centre, and everyone's had a piece to say on it. McLaughlin got injured during the week, by all accounts, around about the same time he was selected to play for Scotland, which is a bit of irony in itself. I was really chuffed to see Alan McGregor come back in. I mean, I have to be honest. It's easy to give the goalkeeper a doing. We've both played football, so they're the sort of very last line of defence. And if they have bad days, they are the ones that get it in the neck. Frankie, who will be doing the directing in the background, they'll be doing things to scream as we say that. However, it's true, these are the guys that ultimately do get it. I do think that... I don't rather think that McLaughlin started the season very well, and McGregor, based on what we know probably historically and a bit of romanticising about it, is and should be the Rangers number one for me moving forward, I think now, Gary.
Yeah, I still think McGregor's the best keeper in the country, let alone the best keeper at Rangers. So I was happy for him to come in. Last season, when the season that we won the championship, when McLaughlin played, I think it was the first 7 games, kept the clean sheets, played well. You can't argue with that, even though McGregor was fit at that point.
Aye.
But there's been something just no right this year in McLaughlin. Even for the Celtic semi-final, when he was commanding and things like that, and people were like, okay, McGregor's not doing that, but he's doing that, and you could see maybe was getting a bit of confidence in the defence.
Yeah.
But this season, there's something not been right. He's not been as commanding. He's made a couple of mistakes. The Rangers goalkeepers survive losing 7 goals in 2 games. I don't think they do. But if you were to turn it to any other position, whether it be a striker, we've talked about Čolak and Morelos. Did McGregor take his chance in midweek? I think he did.
Yeah.
So for me, he's got to at least start tomorrow, if not be number one going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I found it bizarre. I think it was our own Dougie Kinnear who jumped onto Twitter and said something along the lines of, "Isn't it bizarre that Alan McGregor is basically playing for a jersey when he's went for so long, just naturally being the number one?" And it was like on Wednesday night, he knew, I need to play out my skin here if I want to play against Dundee United at the weekend. Just unheard of, absolutely incredible.
But I still find it quite strange, like the whole situation in the summer, because by all accounts he kind of said his goodbyes after the Scottish Cup final, and everybody thought that was him, and then he signs for another year, and you're like, is he really going to basically a number two? You wouldn't think McGregor would do that, so fair play that he has done it, but I don't get the impression that they both started off at a level playing field, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They said, right, play friendlies, we'll see who's the best keeper. I think it's McLaughlin's always been penciled in as the number one for the start of the season, and I don't understand that. I said previously, I don't know if maybe we've got to Ryan a goalkeeper that's possibly out of contract or something, so we asked McGregor to stay on. I'm just that's just guesswork on my behalf. But if we're going to be the foreign goalkeeper or the best ability wise, I still think McGregor a cracking goalkeeper. Yeah, he's made mistakes, but what goalkeeper doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in my opinion, unquestionably, the best goalkeeper we have. I don't think there's. I'm in the same boat as you as far as quality up and down the country. I don't think there's anyone close to him. And I've actually said previously that I do think he's certainly the best goalkeeper that I've ever seen play for Rangers. And I include the late Andy Gorham in that, which is a big statement in itself. Listen, Napoli were really good on the night, Gary. I thought far better than anything we've seen at Ibrox last season in the Europa League run. The way they kept the ball, the way they passed the ball around, their transition, I thought was first class. I think the last time that I've seen, I felt in the last half hour we got a bit of a chasing a little bit, and I think it was more down to the fact that we were a man down, to be perfectly honest. But it was reminiscent of the Bayer Leverkusen game under Gerrard, when they had Kai Havertz playing with them, and I thought that night we got an absolute doing for the duration. And I just felt Napoli over the piece were better than Leverkusen generally from minute 1 to minute 90. I just feel you see a huge step up in class from even playing your Dortmunds and your Leipzigs, Frankfurt last year. We're now right in amongst the big boys, and the quality's telling.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, we're not kidding ourselves. We knew when we qualified for the Champions League, we were there for the money. Obviously, we're in with the big boys where you want to be.
Yeah.
But there was nobody saying, "Oh, we're going to can qualify for the last 16 or anything like that." But anybody I spoke to anyway was realistic to say, if you get third, drop into the Europa League, you've got the money. So we're keeping kind of on the tails of Celtic. Would be quite happy. So as I said, the results didn't anger me. It was the performances, especially against Ajax, that upset me more. I'll say it a million times. I didn't care about getting beat by a better team, but when it's the attitude's no right, and for playing for Rangers, your attitude could never be right. It would never be wrong. Sorry.
Aye, no. Listen, as I say, I think you're absolutely right. I want to do a little bit about each of the Napoli goals if we can. We've covered them very sort of briefly. First one. The penalty was just a bizarre sort of sequence of 2 or 3 minutes, to be perfectly honest with you. We know that Sands gets his second yellow and is sent off. They have the penalty. Step up, McGregor, great save down to his right hand side, and I think it was Politano who followed it in. And at that point you think, oh goodness, 1-0 down, raging. McGregor's made a great save. They were still first to the ball after McGregor palms it out, which was really frustrating. And then there's sort of 40 seconds of real uncertainty. Certainly where I was in the main stand, there was real uncertainty over, well, what's actually going on here, because no one's really making moves back to the centre circle to start again. And then the next thing you know, there's a retake, and there was murmurs around me that McGregor had jumped off his line early, or the Napoli guy had moved into the box early. I'm brutal honest, even now, I'm still not sure which came first. I don't know if it was clear for you.
Well, according to the television, at the time, during the game, they didn't really know what the rules were. It was actually Tavernier and the Napoli player were both in the box when the penalty was struck.
Right,
If it
okay.
had just been a Napoli player, it would have been a foul with Rangers.
Absolutely.
Because it was a Rangers player as well. That's why they got the retake. But to me, it's still bizarre. Like, Alan McGregor saves the penalty and then you're basically punished again. Like, if, I don't know what would happen if you'd missed the penalty. Would you get to take it again? I don't know. But
And listen, the retake is, I mean, one thing you can always rely on from Alan McGregor is he'll save you a penalty. I mean, you look back to Samaras, same end of the ground, saved that afternoon. Always remember it. He's always going to be good for getting his hands onto these penalties. Of course, he saved the retake. Great save. 3 or 4, maybe even 5 minutes later, of course, they get another penalty when the ball is driven towards Barisic. Hits his elbow. I dare say by the letter of the law, it's a penalty, and he's very close to saving the next one, isn't he?
oh yeah, he gets his fingers set, definitely.
Aye. I was so infuriating. You know, where I sit in the ground, it looked like he actually had not a good grip of it, but enough of just to change the direction of the ball so you could see. I was like, oh, he was so close to me. I mean, 3 penalty saves, it would be unheard of in a night at Ibrox, particularly in Europe. Can you imagine?
I know. And that would probably cause no harm at all to be number 1 again. Absolutely.
And listen, that was 66 minutes or so. As I say, we lost Big Sands about 5 minutes or so beforehand. And we held on well. I think it is a good point. It would have been easy for Giovanni just to throw the sort of defenders on and try and lock things up, keep it tight and make sure we didn't lose any more. McGregor makes another couple of good saves after that, but I felt we tried to maintain that philosophy of keeping the ball, trying to progress up the pitch, trying to give them something to think about and trying to be difficult and in their faces. It's difficult when you've got a man off the pitch, and there's no two ways against that, against a big team that are currently leading Serie A. Let's not forget. I do feel Glenn Kamara was shown up quite badly for both the second and the third goals, which really disappoints me. And I can't help but think you're talking about a player now that has had his head turned by the speculation that's just passed there in the summer.
So I'm not sure about that, but I just think that being in and out the team as he is switched on as what he maybe should be.
That's valid, yeah.
I all know Glenn Kamara's an absolute cracking player, and I'm surprised he didn't go after the Euros, to be honest, because I felt that was probably, he had a cracking tournament and I thought he would have went. I'm still surprised he's worse, to be honest.
Aye.
But he obviously isn't the first name on the team sheet for Van Bronckhorst. Seems to prefer Lundstrom, Davies and Jack over him. Yeah. So we've got a really good player there. We should maybe cashed in. And then in the summer window there. But yeah, it was a poor goal. He switched off. I don't think he'd even argue with that.
Yeah. I mean, I felt of the two, the second goal I felt was quite a really well worked goal, to be honest with you. Nice retouch passing, but they're doing a 1-2 right at the edge of the box, and they're in on McGregor at that point. As I say, 5 minutes to go. It's a lovely finish by Raspadori. And again, I mean, right at the death, Kamara gets caught out in no man's land, trying to sort of play around with the ball. The big boy Anguissa, who I felt was absolutely incredible all evening. He was brilliant, best player on the pitch by quite a distance. Tees it up for Ndombele, who's on loan from Spurs, which again speaks to the point about how we're dining at the table where these guys can go and lift loan players from top clubs in and around Europe and bring them off the bench, by the way. Not even start them, involve them as and when they need. It was a great finish by Ndombele to put them 3-0 up. Yeah,
but we're talking about a team that we were playing that they had the new Maradona, as they were saying it. Like that. How do you compete with that?
Absolutely.
But we totally know what level we're at. Nobody was kidding ourselves on when we qualified. We knew it was going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. What it is. We are probably a Europa League team. That Champions League football's where the big boys are, and that's where we want to be. But sometimes you take a couple of sore ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, there's no doubt, it's certainly where the big financial packages are being thrown about, and I think that's an argument for another pod, frankly. But it's definitely the pond where the clubs are spending big money on players, and that out with Scottish football, of course, you know what I mean? But I think that's a given. Listen, before we get into Gio post-match, because he said a couple of things, and there was a couple of things in our selection that I want to go over. Should say a big hello to our friends at Forest Precision Engineering, subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company. Have been a big commercial supporter of the club for many years now, and we're very happy that they are partnering with us at Gersnet for this season. You can visit their website, all the W's, forestprecisionengineering.com. Sorry, ENG.com. That should be, I'll do that again, www.forestprecisioneng.com. They have an executive lounge in the main stand, which you can look to book. Fantastic experience for you and maybe your mates if you fancy a nice wee day out, or if you fancy treating the missus, you can email the club, hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Stunning venue. I certainly recommend you do it. Gary, post-match, Gio was asked about the fact that none of his 7 signings that he's brought in the summer started, albeit 1 or 2 of them through injury currently. Some have been injured. Others just don't seem to be figuring as much as you'd maybe expect. Particularly, you look at guys like Yilmaz and Matondo, Davies, who we know has been injured, but these 3 have had outlay put on them. Quite decent outlay for Rangers, more so when you consider what we've put out previously. He was a wee bit prickly when he was asked about why these guys hadn't been playing, and he was very quick to say that Ben Davies certainly has been injured, wasn't fit. If he's on the bench, I would argue he's fit enough to play. And the fact that he brings on Leon King ahead of Davies would suggest that maybe he just thinks that Leon King may be a better option than Davies.
Yeah, quite possibly. Certainly, I didn't know Davies was on the bench until after the match. So that was the first question I asked myself, was why is he bringing on a 17, 18-year-old? And it was
very good when he came on, by the way. I thought it was good when he came on.
Listen, he went for a header at a corner, and I couldn't believe that he was about the same size as Connor Goldson. For an 18-year-old lad, he's some size.
He's a huge boy.
But to get back to your question, I totally agree with that him being asked that question, because like we're in a situation where, was it 9 of the players were Gerrard's first season?
Yep.
And with Lundstrom, he was a free transfer,
yep.
And Sands, who's a loan player.
Yeah.
We've been crying out for the same kind of player for 4 years, a right winger and a kind of attacking midfielder.
Yeah, agreed.
We are still looking for those players.
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's incredible to think that we could get to January, and the first thing that people are going to ask for in January is exactly what they've been asking in the last 3 or 4 windows. I mean, it is incredible, and it's a debate for a podcast in itself, to be perfectly honest with you. But the fact that we don't have an 8 who can sort of break lines, etc., and the fact that we don't have a right winger, a guy that can knock the ball on the outside the left back, run beyond them and cross it, I think is incredible. Yeah,
I was always trying to defend their recruitment a wee bit, saying, can we maybe hit a glass ceiling when it came to recruitment? We're a Europa League team. We're kind of getting like for like players and things like that. That's what I thought at the time. But now we're not. Now we've sold the players for big money. We're in the Champions League. So I'd like to know where that kind of spending is.
Yeah.
And see, transfer fees didn't bother me. We've seen the scouting is good enough that you can bring in players for low money.
Yeah.
But the players that are coming in should be starting, and they're not.
Correct.
I don't talk about that. The left back who we've signed for quite a bit of money, especially for Rangers.
Yeah.
I think that kind of money would be a first pick for Rangers.
Absolutely.
I've hardly seen him. But on the other hand, it's gave Borna a bit of a kick up the arse, which he's been needing.
And I think it's worked, because Barisic has been playing well. He has been
definitely.
Playing well.
But we can say the same for Matonda. We thought he'd come in, and he's not really done much, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then we're relied to once again playing either Arfield out of position on the right, playing Tillman out on the right.
Yeah.
I feel Tillman started quite well, but he's fell away a wee bit the last couple of games. I thought it was pretty quiet against Celtic and Ajax.
Yeah.
Probably justifiably dropped or didn't start midweek. But I think it's a problem. But it says a lot, yeah. It says a lot that he's kind of going back to the old guard, if you know what I mean. And I remember when we were going for 10 in a row under Walter Smith, he signed all these new players and everything. And when the shit started hitting the fan, he went back to the McCoists and the older guys.
Absolutely.
You just wonder, obviously these guys have been there, they've done it, they've been at the club for quite a while now. And you just think he's gone with the guys that know what it's all about.
Yeah.
But the question should be asked, because there was somebody had put a big list of the players that Ross Wilson had brought in since he came to Rangers. And I think only Lundstrom's played, I see it was 20 games or something like that. So only one player. That's crazy. We're still, and it's not that it's bad players that we've got and that are playing now. It's the fact that we should be looking to improve season on season. We're not doing that. We're standing still. And I think I put it on Twitter last week. We were in a position there we were miles ahead of Celtic. We've not improved. Celtic have spent money and improved, and now they're arguably further ahead than us. Yeah,
and listen, what you say speaks to the next point I was going to make. Jordan Campbell, who does bits and pieces as the Rangers correspondent for The Athletic, put something on Twitter which I thought was a real eye-opener for me. And it was that Rangers had started the first home game of the 2022 Champions League campaign with the 2018 midfield of Davis, Arfield and Jack. That certainly doesn't scream progression. I think you're absolutely right.
Transfers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the first instance, and I must stress, we're not doubting the quality of these guys or how much of the servancy has been at the club. It's been equally excellent. However, I think as support, we're now at a stage where we're expecting progression, and we're expecting not even better, but we're just looking for something to happen. So we're not relying on the old guard that you refer to. We can't continue to go to guys like Stephen Davis and ask him to sort of go to the well again this weekend and then next Wednesday and then the following weekend. You're not going to get that. You're just not going to get it. And I think it's interesting that you speak about Ross Wilson. I think there has been a lot of criticism directed at Gio. Listen, we all know how this goes. If it doesn't go according to plan, the players will never get bumped, but Giovanni Van Bronckhorst certainly will. I just wonder if there will be a change in that, in the sense that Ross Wilson may step down before Gio, because there's certainly a swelling of groaning and murmurs of disapproval towards him just now, isn't there?
There seems to be, yeah, and I know Ross personally, so it's kind of, I don't like kind of speaking bad of him, but you see it. Can you see things on social media when you speak to workmates and things like that, and I've tried to defend a lot of the things I've done, and as I says, glass ceiling, things like that with transfers, but when it's beginning to be a bigger picture now, and you've got more evidence, then you do start to ask some questions. Like I think it's an absolute head scratcher that we've not got any Dutch players signed, players that Gio would know, that Roy Mackay would know, things like that. I just think that'd be like an obvious thing, like not to compare us to Celtic, but obviously because it's the rivals you do. But Postecoglou came in, they brought in guys from Japan, guys that he knows, he was familiar with.
Absolutely.
And you'd think Van Bronckhorst would say, listen, I know this guy from Holland, it's maybe no worked out for him and blah 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 blah, and they could have brought him in to a wee punting him, but there was nothing, and it's just a bit strange. No?
Do you know that way? I think that speaks to the point over the understanding of what Ross Wilson's role actually is. So is Ross Wilson identifying players and going to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and saying, listen, I've got half a dozen players here, what do you think? Do you fancy them? If so, we can progress. Or is Giovanni going to Ross Wilson saying, I want that guy, and that guy, go and make it happen? One of these scenarios you would imagine has to be right, and I think at the moment we're slap bang in the middle of both. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, obviously it's football's changing and things like that. We probably are going down the route of the NFL kind of thing, that a coach is giving a squad of players and says make a winning team for that. Aye. And maybe the coach hasn't got much to say, but a manager's got to trust players, know players and things like that. And in my opinion, because it's maybe an old-fashioned opinion, but certainly it's like when Walter Smith came back in 2007, he came in, it was guys he knew that he brought in.
Yep.
And guys that had worked with Scotland before. And
solid pros.
Yeah, but it was guys that he could trust and guys that knew what they could do.
Yeah.
Gavin Van Bronckhorst, a player that's maybe good on paper, stats or whatever, or all these different things that they look at now and say, no, that this guy can do this. But on a training park, they're obviously no, because he's still going to a Borna Barisic, or he's still going to Connor Goldson, or he's playing James Sands, who isn't even a centre half.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's something just no right there. But they said this about Lundstrom last year, and it proved us wrong.
Yeah.
So I've said that before as well. I want to be proven wrong. Anytime I criticise Rangers, I want to be wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not looking good so far.
No, it really isn't. Listen, before we get into the game tomorrow, let's say hello to our friends at Zenith Coins, the official club coin provider. Each gold-plated coin has a unique serial number engraved on the outer rim and comes complete with a certificate of authenticity. Many people have these coins now. Rangers legends, including McCoy Johnston, Marvin Andrews has got himself some. The world's strongest man, Tom Stoltman, has got one. The world's greatest chef, Gordon Ramsay, has one. And everyone is really picking these up. If you haven't seen them, I recommend you do. Jump onto their website, which is allthew.zenithcoins.com. Gary, we played Dundee United 4 times last season, beat them twice, lost once at Tannadice and drew once at Tannadice, so we didn't go up there and beat them. However, we did beat them 3-0 in aggregate over the piece at Ibrox. They are currently in a bit of a transition, of course, managerless. Caretaker manager Liam Fox is looking after them just now, although we believe they are looking at appointing a permanent person at some point next week. Ex-player Kevin Thompson looks to be there or thereabouts as far as that's concerned. They've came in the back of some real heavy scuddings recently. You know what I mean? 9-0 in their own patch, pumped away in Holland at Alkmaar, I think it was. Considering they're in such a mess, we really need to see that as an opportunity to capitalise on tomorrow and really, do you know what I mean? 4-5-0 should be the minimum I think we expect. Yeah, definitely, and that's what the fans should be expecting, because a scrappy 1-0 doesn't do it. It doesn't do it for us. No. We, as a support, we need to see a serious change for the last few games. Yeah. I want to see guys running themselves into the ground, smelling a bit of blood, and keep going. Absolutely. And if we're realistic about winning the league, goal difference is important. Yeah. And there's too many times in the last few years that we've been happy just being a goal up or whatever, and it's ended up costing us with stupid mistakes. If we're on top, we need to start taking these chances and putting teams away. And for me, this is criticism even under Gerrard. I just think we've done it enough. We really need to start doing that, because you see Celtic, when they're on top, they never stop. They keep going, and that's why they do batter in the goals. Yeah, because they're never happy with a 4 or 5. They just, if they can get 6 or 7, they'll go for it. And it's funny, because one word that we've heard over the last couple of years associated with Rangers has been relentless. And it seems to be something that's only used off the pitch. For me, it doesn't seem to be something that the players sort of take on board. They don't grab games by the scruff of the neck. And I know that sounds really stereotypical, but they don't. You refer to Celtic and how they seem to always continue to find another gear. I think Celtic have always done that, to be fair. It's not just something under Postecoglou. Even in the past, Celtic always seem to score loads of goals, and Rangers always seem to be a bit more like 1-0s, 2-1s, things like that. But we won. We always won the games. Yeah. Even when we won 55, I felt that a lot of games were 1-0, and I'm not saying we scraped a lot of games, but there was a lot of times that if luck hadn't been on our side, we could have dropped points. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's been a historical thing for us. It's very rare that we'll scud a team, whereas I think, especially like Parkhead, Celtic, I'll go for the juggler a bit. Aye. I think that's something we really need to start doing, and especially after the last few weeks we've had, I think it'd be a good statement to make if we're serious about, or certainly if Van Bronckhorst is serious about keeping his job long term. Yeah. So at the minute, there is question marks there. No, listen, I think it's a really good point. I mean, you refer to Gio wanting to stay in the job long term. I think that the sort of the period between now and the break for the World Cup is really, really important for him. Big games to come, you know what I mean? We need to go to Tynecastle. I assume the missed Pittodrie challenge from last weekend will be squeezed in between now and then. The Champions League games will continue to come thick and fast against better quality than what we're used to playing on a weekly basis. I think the next Champions League tie, we're down at Anfield, which is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is one that we'll need to park ourselves behind the sofa to watch, because it's not one I'm looking forward to at all. So yeah, you're right. Starting tomorrow, I think Giovanni has to find a way to scud the teams that we should be scudding and the teams that Celtic are scudding, because for as long as we don't do that, the league this season will be hard to wrestle back, I fear, to be honest.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's been since 2018 when Gerrard came in, we kind of draw a line in the sand with what had happened previously, and that was kind of when we began to look more like a Rangers team. Beating Celtic's never been the problem. It's been beating everybody else.
Yeah.
Because we've time after time have shot ourselves in the foot, last minute goals, and teams that we should be beating, not putting them away. And bar that one season at 55, it seems like we've never learned any lessons. It is the same squad of players. Yeah. So it says we've 9 players for that team at midweek were there at Gerrard's first season. So it's the same players, and they don't seem to be learning. That's what really, really frustrates me.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. I think as you say, we're losing games in the same way with the same players. It's ridiculous. Frankly, it just is. It's ridiculous. It's hard to take. Listen, on the game tomorrow, give me your team selection and a score prediction. Why don't you?
I would go with the team that started midweek, but purely because I don't think Sands is a centre half. I'd like to see Leon King given a chance.
Okay. Would you keep Sands in?
No, I'd play the same team bar Sands for King.
Okay. And the score prediction?
3-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite fair. I would be interested to see tomorrow. I think he may start Leon King tomorrow, because I think when he's been involved so far this season, I think he's equipped himself really well.
It's a bit unfair putting him in when we're pretty much the game's over. A beating point of view, so it'd be good to see him for the start, and it shouldn't be too much a challenge. I say that we'll end up getting beat, but yeah, I'd like to see him be given a chance. They talk about the academy. We've seen how Lowry's done.
Yep.
King's never looked out of place when he's came in either. So yeah, you'd be given a chance.
Yeah, and listen, I think your team, I don't think you'd be a million miles off that. I think you may see Matondo potentially start tomorrow, maybe off the right hand side. Just let's see what he's like. To see if he's maybe the problem solving right winger that we've been looking for so long. And I don't know if I'm as confident as 3-0 tomorrow. I think we'll get 3 points. I think we'll get 3 points.
We need to get 3 points or the season's over.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if we don't get 3 points, it then opens up a different debate as to the direction that we're travelling in just now and how we stop that and we kind of stunt the slope a little bit.
Can I ask you a question, Scott?
Of course you can.
Since you're usually asking me the questions, do you think we've went backwards since we won the league under Gerrard?
100%. 100%. Now let me think. Maybe 100. Can I retract that? I don't know if we went backward, but I don't think we've improved. So I think we've stood still effectively. I don't think we've improved in positions we should have improved in. Maybe naively enough, I felt that we had enough money to do that. I feel there's surely money that's come into the club that we have been able to improve certain bits of the playing squad. Now, whether that money has went on stadium improvement, personnel improvement, because all these people that have came in need to get paid, etc. I don't know. I don't think we've improved. I think we've stood still, and we shouldn't have. Frankly, I think we should be in a better position than we're in now. I think, to be honest, last season was enormously disappointing, and while we had the issue at Hibs, we Willie Collum sort of thrown one in. The sort of last 3 games since that, Celtic, Ajax and Napoli, you can't. If you look back at the record books in 5 years' time, Rangers haven't scored a goal in 3 games and conceded 11. That's what the records will show. It won't show how good they played for an hour against Napoli or how Ajax were really good. It only refers to results, and that's what wins or loses people jobs. And if Giovanni can't change it, it'll be what loses him his job, I'm afraid. And when he came in, I was delighted. And listen, I'm not calling for a second for him to go, but his jacket's on a sugly peg without sounding like my grandfather. Yeah, it really is. I think he's in dangerous waters just now, and he needs something to change. And it has to start tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, what I wouldn't like him to do is be too stubborn about changing things, because I felt last season there was a wee spell where, like, for example, Tavernier wasn't getting us forward as much, and you were like, he's been told not to attack. And then there was just a kind of one game where it just changed, and we did play really well.
Yeah.
But it possibly was the Dortmund away game. It was just a game, and you could see, there's something here, there's a wee bit of, we could see what he's doing here, whether it was Lundstrom dropping back into a back three, they were getting a bit more attacking. But then I think this season we've just went back to square one again. And after the Scottish Cup win, that run in Europe last year, you just think, that was something to build on. I think we've done it again.
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Interesting you speak about Tavernier. He was playing so advanced on Wednesday night, it was incredible. Lundstrom was playing that almost like an inverted right back for certainly the best part of the first half. And Tav looks great in that sort of advanced role. And I've seen people say, should we try him at right wing? And it's poo-hooed a little bit because he's a defender. But when you see him in full flow on that right-hand side, and then you think about the guys that have played there previously over the last couple of years, your Scott Wrights, your Arfield, your Diallos, do you know what I mean? Is James Tavernier a worse option than any of these guys? I'd need to be convinced.
The thing I like about Tavernier and the way he plays is he can run for deep and overlap.
Correct.
Which causes problems. Whereas I think if you're a winger, you're kind of already up there. So you're starting for a standing position, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's easier to get picked up by a left back or whoever on the other side. Whereas if you're running for deep and you've maybe got 2 guys to worry about being a fullback, I think that does him a lot of favours to get that extra space.
And listen, he must love it when Tom Lawrence plays ahead of him, because Tom Lawrence has that clever knack to just all of a sudden sit very narrow, which pulls in the left back and allows Tav to just bomb up the right hand side. So,
I think Tom Lawrence is, as we said about improving the team and things like that, he's somebody that you look at and you say he could replace Scott Arfield going forward. Yep. He's got that knack of getting beyond the striker and causing problems, scoring goals, and that's the players you want to see. Like, there's nothing wrong with the way we play, but you just want to see a bit of progression.
Yeah.
To me, he's the only one that actually looks like somebody you go, I can see where he's going to fit.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, you're absolutely right. Listen, before I let you disappear for the night, we should say that the club have announced that they will do further tributes tomorrow to Queen Elizabeth II after her tragic passing last week at the match tomorrow. If you are heading through to the game to catch those, if there is spectacular as they were on Wednesday, and you didn't have the opportunity to go on Wednesday, but you are going tomorrow, I recommend you get there as sharp as you can, so you can take it all in. It really is remarkable to see and be there and hear it all around you. I recommend it if you get the chance to go. Should say our final partners, the football prizes guys, have the Gaza signed top, £3.95 for a ticket. Jump on to their website, all the W's, footballprizes.co.uk. Excellent stuff. Gary, thoroughly enjoyed having you on, my friend. How are you? Is that okay for you? Good Friday night?
Yeah, it's been brilliant, I never told you what happened. The reason I was 5 minutes late. When I came back to the football, the wife was in the bath and she locked the back door.
Oops.
So when I chapped, the dog went off, woke up the baby. So I wasn't the most popular person, so that's why I was 5 minutes before we started.
So you're literally in the doghouse, are you?
She's up to her bed, I'm down here.
Goodness me. So we should say on Sunday night for the Dundee United review, hopefully a convincing victory. Dundee United review. Craig Gray is back, and he's joined by Brian Archer and a special guest appearance by Ross Bennett, who comes back for Sunday night, which is excellent news. We look forward to seeing that and hearing the guys on Sunday night from 9:30. Gary, thanks very much. Enjoyed having you on. Thanks to Stuart Franklin for doing all the bits and pieces in the background, for making us look nice and pretty, I'm assured. Join the guys on Sunday night. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck to Rangers tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Good night.